good afternoon. You're watching Closing Trades on ET now, but the big headline right now is not coming in from the equities market. It is coming in from the bond market, and that's for you at the bottom of the screen, wherein Bloomberg is saying that India will be added to the emerging market bond indices come January 2025. Now remember, there was that big news about the inclusion into the JP Morgan index as well. That was going to happen in June of this year. There was expected inflow of almost $25 billion that was expected on account of that, and this is coming in as an additional fillip that from 2025 January onwards, India will be added to the Bloomberg Emerging Market Index as well. What's the importance of it? What could it mean for the Indian bond markets? Because right now we are seeing a reaction, whether it's a 10-year, whether it's the rupee or the bank nifty which has moved into the green. Everything is reacting because, of course, at the macro level, all of this has a huge impact on the liquidity in the system as well. But to decode that, Jayesh Mehta, the market veteran, is joining us with that. Jayesh, a very positive news. We were all waiting for the inclusions to happen, and now with JP Morgan happening this year, seems like the gates have opened and we have the next one on the cards come January next year. Jayesh, hi, could you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Absolutely. So it's like we are into good times. Our macro is doing well. At the same time, JP Morgan, though late, but they did include us. And now we have Bloomberg also coming in. Of course, in terms of amount, Bloomberg's not too large. So the incremental, we are talking about $22.5 billion. But it gives you a different weightage, right? So it's not just the tracker I would look at it. So maybe one would say just the tracking of funds, which is tracking the JP Morgan index, would be, say, $23 billion. And this would be $2.5 billion. So that would be $26 billion. But because of the momentum, because these two people have included, we would see a lot of other non-tracking guys also coming in. So I won't be surprised if we see $35 to $40 billion coming in with both these news coming in at this juncture.
Jayesh, what would this flows, in fact, in the last 3-4 months, FII flows into Indian debt actually have increased, even though they may have been selling in the equity market, but debt flows have turned positive. And now you're talking about flows even going higher because of inclusion of these global indices. On a more bigger landscape, if I were to take 3 to 5 year period, what usually happens to bond markets in countries where their indices get included into such, global indices? Does it become, the flow become more consistent, the market becomes bigger? What exactly is the trend which may actually take shape from here on?
People say, like, when you are included in an index with a weightage of 10%, and that's the general feel people say, then normally, even if you want to go short, if you're negative on that country, you would go short by 2% underweight, so maybe 8% still would be invested. And maybe you are going long, that's what generally people say, rule of thumb, that you'll go 2% overweight. And that's where, the range of delta is 8 to 12. But I think that's not really true. The delta could be 8 to 24, because when your macro is good, it's not only the index guys, but it's other guys who are not tracking index. They also come in, because what happens is when you are not part of index and you as a fund manager takes a call on it, and if you go wrong, people are going to question you, right? But when you're a part of index and if something goes wrong, people are not going to question you that dramatically. So that from that perspective, the flows can actually go to $40-45 billion in good times, and I think our macro is looking pretty good. And as you were saying, some of the guys have already started coming in, so it's not even they are front-running the index. Of course, that's the backstop they have in the mind. But right now, the guys who are coming in are more for currency appreciation, because looks like we have kind of peaked out on our currency. And the best way to go long on INR is to buy government bonds.
Exactly, I wanted to come to next, because, help our viewers understand as to how this also spells out to be positive for the currency as well, because that definitely reduces our cost of funding.
No, Absolutely. So, this year, like last year, we don't know whether equity flows will continue or not continue. We are all hoping that it will continue. But even if it does not continue, so the $22 billion equity flow, that will be kind of replaced by the debt flow, which was not there ever, right? So from that perspective, and of course, our macro is doing pretty well, right? And as we do more China plus one and stuff like that, and the GCCs, the macro looks pretty interesting. As long as crude is not misbehaving above 100 for next foreseeable future, we should be pretty good on our currency. So there is definitely momentum that currency will appreciate. It's only how much at what speed that will depend on RBI.
All right, Jayesh, thank you very much for your time. That quick take. In fact, the last point he made that some global debt allocators may be already front-running the moves, and this is also a way to go long on the currency. But other global allocators who are also looking at macros very closely as a determinant of looking at a country closely, India comes on their radar as well once the Indian bonds get included in a global index like Bloomberg or JP Morgan or thereabout. So clearly, this is incrementally positive for country as a whole. Indian bond market and equities, of course, are having a party of their own. Let's take the discussion forward with Andrew Holland, who's also joining us from Avendus Capital. Andrew, thanks for waiting by patiently. It's a positive. I see a reluctant smile on your face. Are you still cautious in Indian market, but enjoying the party? Or have you trimmed your positions? What are you advising or taking position on? What's your current stance?
Yeah, well, we seem to have gone from the main party to the kind of after party now. The point I would make, actually, just following on from this bond, kind of inclusion in Bloomberg, is that you will get, anywhere between $30 to $40 billion going into bonds. But what this means is that the currency will remain stable, if not appreciate very soon. And that gives the RBI that kind of scope, if they want to reduce rates, even if they have to wait for the Fed a little bit longer. So they could actually go before the Fed. If the Fed is pointing that the next move for them is down in terms of interest rates because of the data, the RBI could actually kind of take that step and reduce rates ahead of that, because the currency won't depreciate that much with all these inflows. So that's something that I think the banking sector will be looking at very closely. And if the 10-year bond yield goes below 7%, then I think that's very much on the cards. And all the kind of problems which the banks are facing at the moment in terms of NIMs and deposits, I think will start to fade away. So that's the key for the banking sector if that was to happen.
The key for the banking sector, and of course all the rate sensitives at that. But talking about rate sensitives and the auto companies that you flagged out, Andrew, of course Tata Motors is one stock which is in focus, and the entire Tata group is coming back to the forefront this year. And of course there's a lot of news about value unlocking, about the kind of IPOs that the company has is planning or is doing. Of course with Tata Tech, there's now expected to be 4 or 5 new IPOs over the course of next 16 to 18 months. So that's got the street clearly excited. But within the Tata group, if I had to ask you, which segments look the most poised for an aggressive growth, for a good return on capital, which are those sectors or segments that come to mind, Andrew?
Well, I think obviously the auto sector, the hotel sector in particular, would be one focus area. It's something we talked about before. So the hotel sector, Prime Minister Modi is talking about tourism in India. That can only help going forward as well. But with all the kind of holidays and experiences people want, this is one sector which I can see at the very start of a runway, which is very long going forward. So those are the kind of two sectors. The thing I would say is that is on this kind of getting valuations. It's all good, but of course we have to see how those companies perform as single entities listed on the exchange as well. So there's still some way to go. So I'm not overly kind of excited. Most analysts anyway looked at the group and sum of parts. So, unless there's some, great move in terms of let's just say the CV sector is turning upwards, that would be good, obviously, for a new listed company, rather than being part of a passenger vehicle company as well.
Tata Motors is an established bet, but if you had to bet on something else or some other stock from within the Tata group, what's looking strongest on the chart?
So Tata Chemical is something which we did recommend as a trading bet. That looks attractive for another. So it's already done up some 5-6% today, but I believe another 5-6% should be in the offing for the stock. So maybe closer to 1100, 1120 is where I would believe Tata Chemicals could probably try and find a mild bit of resistance. Tata Tech, even though the chart history is a lot more limited, but I think at closer to 1080-85 levels, that stock has also come back to an oversold nature in terms of indicators. That's another name to look out for. Tata Communication, I think, has been consolidating over the last couple of days. But when you look at the last 1 week, 10 days of price pattern, it's been almost like a V-shaped recovery for the stock from a sharp correction the stock had witnessed in good part of January as well as the month of February. So I would believe that all three of the stocks look attractive. Tata Motors is something which I've been recommending, and I believe still looks good for 1080 to 1100 target over the near term.
Okay, just wanted to talk about Westlife Food World with you, Naresh, because of course the company has got the clean chit per se from the FSSAI saying that they have verified the company's usage of cheese, and they're sure that it's 100% real cheese, and that's the reason that stock has reacted positively. Let's pull up the intraday chart if we can of Westlife Food, because that will tell you there's a big 5 to 6% move there. Naresh, what's the view on the chart of Westlife plus the entire QSR space?
It still remains weak for the stock even after the bounce back. It has been making lower tops and lower bottoms for the last 5 months. So the current down move could be to the news, but overall the trend is still down. So till the time it doesn't recover above 830 levels, which is still pretty far from the current prices, the trend remains down. And we are seeing that similar trend across the QSR space. Most of the stocks are at 6-month lows, whether it is Devyani or Sapphire, or say the only one which comes out of that list is Sapphire, which is closer to a 52-week high. But majority of the other names are continuing to trend downwards. So if I have to look at it, I'll be watching out for Sapphire.
Sapphire Foods, that's what Naresh is betting on. We'll take a very quick break on that note. Tata Chem is buzzing high, so is Bharti, Motherson, and of course Tata Motors has been zooming up from the word go. We'll track all of these buzzers on the other side.
All right, so while the market appears to be flat or some recovery from the lows, one part of the market which has not done very well last 2-3 years is showing some early recovery, and that is specialty chemicals. Tata Chemical is one, but look at Ganesh Benzo, look at Gujarat Fluoro, many other specialty chemical companies are kind of showing some sparks. Andrew, this space has seen a lot of rough weather last few years, I'll say 2 to 3 years, specialty chemical, the high margin ones. Performance chemicals, are you seeing some bottoming out there in terms of valuation, or even the macro headwinds of Chinese dumping, etc., getting over anytime soon? Would you look at that space, or it's too early?
It's slightly early because obviously we've seen what's coming out of China today with their forecast for GDP growth, which I think most people feel is quite optimistic. There still hasn't been a big kind of bazooka fired into the economy to get it going. So I expect more of the same until you steady the economy, give confidence back to people in the property market in China before you can really kind of start looking at the chemical sector here. So it's a bit like how can I put it? It's a bit like the IT sector. I think that's kind of towards the bottom. If interest rates are coming down, and that's the tailwind that you have there. But until China picks up, then I don't see that there's any tailwind for the chemical companies. If anything, it's probably more headwinds in terms of pricing heading lower as well.
Okay, that point is taken, Andrew. But in the meantime, there's a big breakout happening as far as some of these PSU banking names are concerned. Take a look at UCO Bank, Central Bank, IOB, SBI for that matter, Union Bank. They're all up anywhere between 5 to 10%, and good amount of price volume action on some of these names as well. But Andrew, specifically on the PSU banking names, what's the view?
I think that, well, my view is overall in the banking sector, I'm more bullish, from the facts that I mentioned before about the bond inclusion and money going into bonds and bringing down yields. So that's the overall kind of sentiment which I feel, or narrative which I feel is going to play out for the banking sector. As regards the PSU banks, I'm not quite buying into the governance story and everything else. I still think I'd rather be in the private banks at this stage, which have underperformed anyway, than chase PSU banks at the moment. I just rather have that margin of safety with the private banks.
Right, okay. That's that and the entire PSB rally, which is playing out hard right now. Looking at some of the other buzzers, Tata Motors, of course, is right there on top. You've got an M&M, Bharti as well, which is holding out very well. And NTPC, of course, has been quite the buzzer of late, continues to hold up as we speak. On the flip side, though, Bajaj Finance is seeing some acute weakness. That stock is down about 4.5%. Let's bring up that intraday graph. And the weakness or the sudden plunge has only come in post the mid-session or so. That stock lower sharply by about almost 4%. And then, of course, the entire IT pack has been weighing heavy on the markets from the word go. Reliance started off with a downtick of nearly about 1% or so, and from there it seemed just a mild bit of recovery, but it's still weighing heavy. And private banks haven't done anything today, so Kotak, Axis Bank are all in the red as we speak right now. And today L&T as well is taking a bit of a breather. That's down about 0.7%. Kunal, buy on dips, is that the strategy for L&T?
Yeah, so I think last week we were mentioning that the stock has come back to a slightly overbought territory on the 3650, 3700 levels. If it drops back to 3550 mark, that could be a good point to try and buy the stock again, because of the the nature of the stock, which is a lot more moderate beta. You have to buy in zones where the stock actually cools off, comes back to its short-term moving average. In this case, maybe closer to the 20-day moving average, which is around the 3550, 3570 mark for L&T. I think that could be a very good point to try and average out further.
Okay, point taken. Let's take some closing strategies from our technical experts. And Andrew, on that note, we let you go. Thanks so much for making time and speaking with us. But just, Naresh, coming to you on the PSU banks, if there's any name that you want to spot there, and then your closing trade idea.
So we'll continue to focus on SBI, a fresh 52-week high and all-time high today. So that's a stock which can still continue towards higher levels. So that's one. On the closing trade, it would be IndusInd Bank, which has been showing the latest strength for the last two sessions, hit a new swing high. So expecting some momentum in IndusInd Bank.
You cannot.
So that'd be a buy on Sun TV, a stock which I'd given it as a recommendation yesterday also, expecting the stock to form a major bottom for itself at levels of 600 to 620. So I think it's a good risk reward to go for a buy at current levels, expecting targets closer to 700 plus for Sun TV.
Yeah, we were just highlighting the chemical names, and just to put the spotlight on Balaji Amines as well as Alkyl Amines, both of those stocks have suddenly seen a bit of a spike. Actually, Balaji was holding strong for most part of the trading session, and Alkyl I think has actually managed to perk up and get added into that momentum in the last few minutes as well. Tata Chemicals, of course, is partly the reaction to the Tata news in terms of the entire group, whether it is Tata Motors demerger or the fact that Tata Sons might get listed. But all of that is something that we'll try and decode after this very short break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Well, for the index, we're just around the mark of around 22,370. So just come off the highest point of the trading session. However, Bank Nifty has actually managed to surge since that news came of the bond inclusion as well. So that index is outperforming today. We're above the mark of 47,600, closer to that 48,000 mark, which has been acting as a bit of a resistance zone for us. And it's the PSU space, the PSU banking space that is, which is actually doing quite well for itself, the gain of around 2.5% on that one. But the Tata group of companies, they're all in focus, whether it's Tata Motors, Tata Chemicals or the other group companies as well. That's because probably the news flow suggests that Tata Sons might be looking at listing soon on the bourses, maybe over the course of next 1 to 2 years. And brokerages have written on the same. My colleague Somit is joining us with the analysis from one such report. Somit.
Tata Sons listing, which is expected to happen in the next 1.5 years, is one of the most talked topics on the market, and that is because there are 4 listed Tata Group companies that could actually see some value discovery happening from this listing of the holding company that is Tata Sons. Now, to understand that, first let's look at the shareholding pattern of Tata Sons. Now, there is Dorabji Tata Trust, Ratan Tata Trust, and other promoter trust or trust which owns close to around 66% stake in the company. Apart from that, there is Sterling Investment and Cyrus Investment, which own close to around 18% stake in the company. Then there is Tata Motors, Tata Chemicals, which own around 3% stake individually. Tata Power owns around 2% stake, and then there is Indian Hotel, which owns additional 1% stake in the company. Now, what could be the value of Tata Sons on listing? Now, if you see the market value of the listed investments that Tata Sons has, that value stands at around 16 lakh crore rupees. Now, the group could also derive another 1 to 1.5 lakh crore rupees from its stake in other unlisted entities and step-down subsidiaries. Now, given the fact that Tata Sons is a holding company, there would be a holding company discount that will be applicable, as we have generally seen in the market. Now, assuming that a 30% discount is applicable, then the actual value of Tata Sons on listing could be around 12.6 lakh crore rupees. If 40% discount is applicable, then the value could be around 11 lakh crore rupees, and on 60% discount, the value could be around 7.8 lakh crore rupees. Now, even if we assume a 60% holding company is applicable on Tata Sons on listing, then the value of Tata Sons on listing could be around 7.8 lakh crore rupees. This means that the 3% stake of Tata Chemical in Tata Sons is valued at close to 20,000 crore rupees, which is nearly 80% of its market capitalization, which stands at close to 25,000 crore rupees. Now, in case of Tata Power, if you see, nearly 21% of its market cap is equal to its stake value in Tata Sons. In case of Tata Motors, it's 16%, and in case of Indian Hotels, it stands at around 19%. Now, do remember, this is assuming that the holding company discount stands at around 60%. If the holding company discount is on the lower side, then the value discovery for these 4 listed Tata Group companies could well be higher, and hence these Tata Group companies have been buzzing in trade.
Okay, that's the exclusive buzz that my colleague Samit is picking up. Samit, thanks for that info. It seems that Tata Sons IPO could be here in as short a time frame as 1.5 years. Perhaps the estimated investment value could be about 16 lakh crore rupees, and it can add about 1 to 1.5 lakh crore rupees of value from its unlisted investments as well. That's what we are picking up right now. But let's welcome on board Mahantesh Sabarat as well. And Mahantesh, hi, afternoon. After the demerger of Tata Motors, it seems that it could be the Tata Sons IPO up next.
I'm not too very sure about the Tata Sons IPO. In my experience in the markets, something similar used to be quoted way back in 2007, 2008, thereabouts, about Tata Sons getting listed and so on and so forth. We have heard enough such stories, and I would like to right now disbelieve it the first instance, unless I really see a proper document getting filed. I feel that this is a bit of speculation that a lot of market participants keep doing periodically. It goes back many, many years. So I would like to discount it at this juncture.
So for now, you're not building in the case of Tata Sons IPO anytime soon. But what about Tata Motors and the news flow that we are seeing on that one?
Tata Motors is concerned, this whole scheme of arrangement, which will eventually mean 2 companies will be born, the Tata CV business, whatever the name they may choose tomorrow, and the Tata PV business. One thing is clear, that the current shareholder will actually get more liquidity as we go forward. There will be 2 more shares that will be available, 2 more listed entities will be there, but effectively for a current shareholder, it will mean 2 more shares. It's akin to a bonus share, it's akin to a stock split, where there is no value that gets created overnight, but the overall liquidity infusion could mean better valuation ahead. But there are gray areas in that scheme of arrangement. We still have unanswered questions about certain major subsidiaries of Tata Motors, such as Tata Motor Finance. There is Tata Daewoo Korea. There are these foreign subsidiaries in Thailand and so on and so forth. So we really don't know how this scheme of arrangement will eventually pan out. And let's not also forget that the Tata Motor EV business, which has been recently formed as with TPG infusing funds into it, as will create its own drag on the shareholder value creation ahead for the current shareholders, because TPG will eventually get some shareholding in the new listed PV business, which would mean a little value erosion for the current shareholders.
Right, okay, that's the take coming in on Tata Motors. In the meantime, there you go. That's that exclusive that we've all been waiting for on your screens. Come tomorrow at 3:30, you can hear out the RBI Governor live and exclusive right here on ET Now as well as ET Now Swadesh. That's a lot of talking points, not just about India's bond inclusion now into the Bloomberg Emerging Market Pack, but a lot about liquidity, which way they actually see the economy headed, etc., is going to be one key talking point, and whether the chatter for a rate cut is getting stronger, or would the RBI be on hold for some more time to come, at least indications of which we will try and gather in this interview. But that said, let's just take stock of what the market as well is settling in at for the day. It's been quite a sideways kind of session. Sure enough, we've had those jagged edges, but we've largely consolidated. 22,457 thereabouts is where we are shutting shop for the Nifty futures. RBL Bank, Bajaj Finance, Piramal Enterprises, Bajaj Finserves. This entire chunk is the one which is really getting clobbered right now. And add to that, Voltas as well, even though it was a buzzer all through last week, that's seeing some profit taking come by. That stock is sharply lower by about 3.6% as we speak right now. Technology, of course, as a basket is also in the red. Steel for a second consecutive day after that CLSA downgrade coming in. That's also seen some weakness spelling in. And ICICI Bank, Kotak, Axis, they're also not quite supportive of the markets this afternoon. But Naresh, if I could just quickly get in your comments on the charts of Reliance as well as L&T, considering these have been the key sort of supports for the index. You think some consolidation could be herein on the cards from for these two names?
So Reliance Industries has been slowly and steadily trending up rather than a very spiky move. So it's been a very slow move from 2,800 to 3,000 odd levels. The stock still looks positive. Ideally should see another spike up to 3,200. And then maybe a major pause could be in the making. Similarly, L&T went through that correction also from 3,700 and went to 3,300, recovered back. So some bit of a pause around 3,700, 3,750. And then if it crosses 3,750 after a few weeks, then it should be a further momentum move. So for now, on dips to 3,500, L&T is a buy. Reliance remains a buy at current levels. Could head up towards 3,200, 3,300 in the short term.
Point taken. So that's the view coming in on some of these other heavyweights. But just taking a look at Westlife again, because that stock is now higher by 8%. The last time we had flagged it, it was up around 4%. Because remember that stock had seen a bit of a drawdown after there were reports that there's an issue with the quality of cheese which is being used at some of their outlets in Maharashtra. Now it seems like FSSAI, the food security body, has actually done its survey and given the clean chit to the company. So that stock is holding up with a gain of around 8%. Kunal, if I can ask you the view on Westlife, and the other one I'd want to discuss is, of course, IIFL Finance. On the charts, it's down 20%, but what I mean to ask you is, at what value or at what price do you think you should be a buyer in IIFL Finance, if at all?
So Westlife, I would believe that this is a very strong candlestick at play, because the stock is showing those classical signs of bottom formation in terms of volumes, and prices over the last 1 week had been a bit more stagnant at the 720, 725 mark. Today it's come back to that 790, 795 levels, on the verge of breaking past over the 800 mark for Westlife, which means that the base of 720 mark could now be a more formidable base for the stock price. The only concern with the chart pattern or the overall market or the current market outlook is that the stocks which are seeing such kind of sharp up move, they generally don't get to see a follow through immediately over the subsequent next 1 or 2 days. I think that's something to watch out for. So in case if the stock retraces back again, and assuming if it comes back to say 750, 755 mark and doesn't fall below that 750 levels, then we can establish that this could be a strong price volume candlestick, and maybe the texture of the stock has changed from being on a downtrend to now starting to get into a slow, steady and a gradual uptrend for itself. So that's something to watch out for. Hopefully in the next couple of days we'll get more clarity in terms of how the stock retraces in case if it does. IIFL Finance, on the other hand, I think after this 20% down move for the stock and throughout the day, the stock which has been down 20% right from the open, it's come back towards a major breakdown point. I think if I'm not wrong, it's come back towards the April or the August highs for itself. That indicates that the stock is showing fresh signs of breakdown. So I would probably wait out for a point when the circuit actually opens up, normal trading window opens, and I think that's where we could probably establish that maybe the stock has come back towards a good support point. As of now, I would believe that it's more of a wait and watch.
Right, okay, that's the take coming in on IFL Finance. Hasn't seen any sign of a recovery come by. But a lot of other volume buzzers, let's address those. Ansh is here with the list.
Right, so Tata Chemical will be the first stock in focus today, as the stock has given a significant move of over 5% as we speak. As you can see in the chart, stock seems to have given a good breakout from its double bottom chart pattern, which was intact for almost a month. The stock has also surpassed about 50, 100 and 200 DMA altogether in one single session, with heavy volume of over 11x as we compare, if you compare it with last 10 session average volume. Turning our focus to Union Bank, stock has given a breakout from its reverse head and shoulder chart pattern, touching its 6-year high level as well today, advancing for 5th consecutive month as we speak. Moving on to Bharti Airtel. If you see the chart of Bharti Airtel, stock seems to have given a good breakout, a decisive breakout from its horizontal resistance zone, touching 1-month high level, registering its biggest single session gain in almost 3 months, keeping the sentiment positive.
Okay, that's the buzz coming in and all the buzzers in trade, and clearly Bharti one amongst that. You've got good traction coming in for Motherson Sumi. There's IGL, which is perked up about 3%, and Tata Chemicals is sitting right on top there with a near about 6% move. But besides being known for its heritage and culture, India is also famous for producing beauty queens on international platforms. And unless you're living under a rock, you would know that the prestigious Miss World pageant is going to be held on 9th March in India this time. In fact, on ET Now Hangouts, my colleague Ankita Saxena spoke with India's representation to Miss World 2023, Sini Shetty, Femina Miss World 2022, and she told us about her investment choices and a lot more.
Sini, you spoke about how you've been through different facets of your life, being an accounting student, and you were also preparing for your CFA, right, to become a financial analyst. And ET Now, of course, is a business news channel. So I can't help but ask you, do you invest? And if you do, then how do you like to invest your money? For the young viewers, we always encourage them to invest. So tell us what are your areas of investment or what fascinates you?
When it comes to investments,
yeah.
I am a balance between modern transactions and old money.
Okay.
I believe that for youth especially,
yeah.
safe investments like mutual funds, bonds,
yeah.
are very important, and I'm
yeah.
someone who really believes in it.
Yeah.
But I'm also someone who believes in old money, because something that comes from my family, this is something very traditional.
Okay.
I still remember being 4 and my mom gifted me my first bracelet, gold
yeah.
bracelet, and she told me that this has a lot of value, and this is an investment.
Okay.
And you should take it ahead. So
yeah.
I think I found my balance between both of it.
So you like gold, investing in
gold? I like gold investments.
Yeah.
I'm looking into real estate opportunities
right.
as well. But at the same time, safe investments like mutual funds,
yeah.
FDs, bonds. Today's youth has now taken me to a new direction,
yeah.
into stocks. I know that, coming from a place where safe investments are necessary,
yeah.
this is something that I do after proper knowledge.
Yeah.
After the proper research.
We won't let you go just like that. We'll play a quick rapid fire round with you. Your guilty pleasure.
My guilty pleasure would be re-watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine for the 100th time.
Your pet peeve.
My pet peeve is seeing an untidy room. I cannot. I will leave everything and I will clean that room.
Okay. What motivates you?
Just seeing myself stand at the same place every year.
Okay. And the best advice you ever received?
The best advice I've ever received is from my mom, that never look back. If you've chosen a direction, move forward and achieve whatever you want.
What is that one trait that defines you?
Happy-go-lucky girl.
Finally, what is that one quality you think will make you win Miss World title?
Humility.
In terms of of the other stocks which are in focus, just wanted to highlight RBL Bank. That's seen a dropping quite a bit. That's down 7%. And Piramal Enterprises is the other one which is coming up on my radar. That's down 5%. Bajaj Finance has taken a huge knock of 4.5%. Even Bajaj Finserv, of course. Naresh, come in quickly on the charts of Bajaj Finance, Piramal Enterprises and RBL Bank.
So a lot of NBFCs have taken a knock today, and Bajaj Finance out of them has been anyways in the downtrend for quite some time. Multiple tops around 8,000, the recent lows of 6,800 broken. So ideally, the stock should slowly and steadily head up towards 5,700. That would be the view. And a stop loss now would be at 6,600. So technically a weak one. Piramal Enterprises, on the other hand, was actually coming into a breakout zone, and today is where it has made a big reversal itself. So would be an avoid. So shorting on Bajaj Finance on any rise is the trade out of the whole sector.
Right, okay, that's the take coming in on Bajaj Finance, seeing quite a bit of drubbing. Meantime, some comments coming in from Vijay Shekhar Sharma as well of Paytm. Hasn't seen any resurrection, that stock for sure. But in the meantime, this Piramal Enterprises as well, which is sharply lower today, about a 4.5% downtick is where it's currently at. There's Voltas as well, down about almost 4%. Technology, of course, has continued to see a dropping. There's L&T, which is down, Unilever, which is down. Same is the case with, I think, a Nestle as well. And then, of course, Asian Paints too has languished quite a fair bit. That's also down about almost 0.5%. Adani names, they too under pressure, both enterprises as well as ports. Mantesh, I think we've discussed this earlier, but just wanted to analyze what you make of the paint segment right now with Grasim's entry, their plant getting inaugurated now. And what would it mean for Asian Paints, which does have the lion's market share and premium valuation clearly?
The first thing to take a knock is the market shares will start getting readjusted. Asian Paints has been now facing a lot of competition from new entrants. It's not just Grasim alone. We also have JSW Paints in the picture, and I'm sure that tomorrow there'll be other companies who will start coming in the paint sector. So the first thing that takes a knock is obviously market share. Premium valuation is of course dependent on how they will be able to maintain their margins and growth ahead. Growth could be subdued, but if there's margin expansion because they have premiumization of their products, then we could perhaps see that value erosion or market valuation erosion could be limited. Having said that, I think the future doesn't seem to be very good for all the paint companies given all this competition that we are seeing, because there is a limited market, or it may be growing, but that growth available now for entrenched players will be limited.
Let's see what happens of the paint sector going forward. But let's take a breather and actually run you through some of the commentary that we got this morning. So we spoke with a whole host of managements of the stocks which are buzzing around, whether it's Inox for that matter, Infibeam for that matter. We of course also locked into the con calls of Z Entertainment as well as IIFL Finance. We'll do one thing, we'll run you through all of those bites as to what these managements are saying.
We are the most competitive suppliers of wind turbines, but we are, while we are ramping up very aggressively, we are also what I would call cautiously building the business, where we are scaling up from say 500-600 crores of top line to 4,000-6,000 crores of top line to more as we move forward. But we focused on multiple things over the past 12 months, as you know, on technology, on fixing the balance sheet, on the management team, on getting the entire supply chain ready. So I think we may keep upgrading our guidances as we move forward, but I think we're doing it. We would rather under-promise and over-deliver than the other way around.
It's a matter of time how we can grow more faster, right? So from 4.7 lakh crores to taking it up to around 5.5 is the immediate goal. We have more focus right now on the front side, that is building the platforms that merchants want, that they can be onboarded easily. The payments part is what we're already doing very well, which we got this aggregator license. From a payment aggregator perspective, as a merchant, you would like to offer all kinds of payment options.
We are expecting a high demand and good supply of power in the country, because country has added generation capacity almost about 20,000 megawatt was added in the last year, and there is comfortable fuel supply scenario. Gas prices have also come down. So I'm sure the gas generation also will be available. So we expect a good volume growth in the next year. We expect the prices to be slightly, in fact, lower than this because fuel supply is much better. Gas prices have come down. So overall, the prices are expected to be lower.
The board has been debating. We are yet to form a view. But I would say that we need to consider various factors which are there in the domain of our thinking. Basically, I would say that, we are putting through a revival process and it requires tremendous amount of focus, knowledge of the company, what it did in the past.
Right, okay, that's a slice of all the conversation that we've had and the managements that we've been speaking to with sensitive stocks. Settling in pretty much status quo as we were just about half an hour back or so. Down a little bit soft, 22,352 is where we're shutting shop for the day, nearabouts. But Kunal, in specific, the weakness that's happening currently on some of these financial names, Bajaj Finance, Piramal, and I would add an RBL Bank also to that.
Yeah, so I think it's very specific towards a certain set of stocks because, Bajaj Finance, Bajaj Finserv, RBL Bank, Bandhan Bank, many of these stocks, they were, already going through a sharper correction for themselves. In fact, many of these stocks like Bajaj Finance, etc., have been trading below their 200-day moving averages since the last 1.5 odd month. So, there was a bounce into these stocks in the last 15 days or so. But, those bounce got sold into and these stocks have gone back into making new swing lows for themselves. But interestingly now for Bajaj Finance, I would actually believe that the stock has come back towards closer to an oversold nature in terms of indicators. So what this could probably do is that maybe it could, the stock could now get into a zone of more of a consolidation rather than a sharp correction. Only traders I think which have a longer term time horizon and are looking to buy the stock at classic risk rewards. I think at current levels of 6,300, Bajaj Finance could offer a good risk reward play as such to go for a contra long. But the two factors which are actually very positive about the overall markets, one is that the India VIX has now dropped back again lower to 14.3 levels. And I think just about last week or so, end of last week, we were closer to 16.1 for India VIX. So that's a very strong change, positive change for the market in terms of sentiment. And the other is the Bank Nifty premium, which was early in the morning closer to 250, 260 points. That's now jumped to almost 320 points, which means traders are carry forwarding long positions for the Bank Nifty, even if it's a BTST play.
That's the latest coming in on some of those big movers. But Mantesh, on that note, we let you go. Thanks so much for making time and speaking with us today. Lots happening in the market, with the latest being at the bottom of your screen. Yesterday, remember, BHL had come out with a clarification that they hadn't received any such award from Singrauli, but now it's official that they have backed this order. The total value is around 9,500 crore rupees, and that's the reason after that 13% uptick that the stock had seen yesterday, that stock is reacting high by around 2.5%. We'll go to my colleague Lisa as well to try and understand what is the story with the BHL and what's happening there. But before that, let me take it across to Sharad, and Sharad will join us to talk to us about the dealing room chatter, and then we'll get Lisa along to talk to us about BHL. Sharad, tell us what the latest dealing room chatter is like.
In focus is RBL Bank, and what the dealing room chatter is that there's a block deal likely expected to happen for RBL Bank. Now it's expected that the selling price could be in a discount ranging between 235 to 245 rupees per share, and it's likely that the buyer would be a large financial institution. Apart from this, if you look at the stock itself also, the stock has fallen. Volumes have actually picked up almost 2 times its 20-day average, and the stock has snapped its 4-day gaining streak as well. We did check some numbers from the Bloomberg as for the analyst stake, and we are having almost 65% of the 23 analysts tracking the stock still having a buy rating, but the 12-month target price, that's coming at roughly 273 rupees per share, indicating roughly 3 to 4% of upside potential.
Okay, time now for a quick BTST take. Naresh?
So
Naresh, or BTST
like
trades?
Bank. Yeah, so that would be a buy on IndusInd Bank, which is showing a breakout stop loss at 1525, target price of 1580. Second is a triangle breakout on Bharti Airtel, stop loss at 1158, target price of 1200.
What about you?
So I'll go with two buy calls. The first one is actually by Engineers India. That stock looks attractive. It's formed a cup and handle pattern on the charts. Targets of 255, stop loss at 225. And second would be a ban Biocon, expecting the stock to get into a very strong revival. Strong support closer to 277, 278 mark for Biocon. So would suggest a buy with a target of 305, stop loss at 270.
Okay, but before we just wrap up, I wanted to just quickly talk about a latest exclusive that Sumit Chaturvedi had, and he talked about how Japan's Sumitomo Wiring Systems is likely to sell stake in Samvardhana Motherson Sumi, and that's why they are expecting a block deal soon. The stake sale could be to the tune of 4,500 crore rupees. Remember, Sumitomo Wiring holds around 14% stake in Samvardhana Motherson, and there might be a bit of an offloading there of stake, and the stake sale could be as large as 4,500 crore rupees. So just wanted to highlight that, Aisha, before we wrap up for the day.
Oh yeah, and it's been quite a buzzer today. 4.5% higher on futures, 5.6% higher on the spot. But it's going out okay today. It's been one of those quiet days, and that's pretty okay considering how fabulous the week gone by was. And I don't think the headline number in any case would give you any reason to complain. Yes, we came in with that 22,500 print. From there, we're definitely a little bit off. Remains the same texture pretty much. Bajaj Finance, Finserv, TCS, Infosys, Nestle, Britannia, Unilever, LTIM, all weighing heavy on the index today. L&T, Reliance, Axis, Kotak, ICICI Bank as well have closed in the red. But that's not quite been the case for Tata Motors, which shut shop a good 3.25% higher, or for that matter, Bharti, Bajaj Auto, SBI was clearly powering ahead, and ONGC got its mojo back. It's closing in at the session highs, a solid 1.5% up in the green. In fact, the rest of the auto pack as well did pretty okay. Maruti, M&M, Eicher, they were all gainers today. Surprising to see that at a time when Kotak, Axis, ICICI Bank did nothing, it was actually HDFC Bank which pulled through, and along with indices is one of the top Nifty banking names, held out around that 1439 odd mark in trade. From within the liquid universe, Vedanta shot up, Tata Chem as well, held out by about almost 6% odd. And then, of course, on the flip side, there was pressure coming in from Piramal Enterprises, Voltas, as well as RBL Bank too. So that's pretty much it. That's how the closing has been, and we'll catch you again with all the market action tomorrow morning at 8 a.m.